The most troubling point from my point of view, and this is a point that most of the mainstream media has completely dodged or missed, is that, Joe Biden didn't simply reach out in consensus, some kind of civility to these Southern racist senators. It wasn't hard for him to reach out because he shared their views in the first place. He didn't just support legislation introduced by James Eastland or Jesse Helms. He thanked them for supporting his legislation and his own anti-busing legislation. He called busing asinine. And and more than and worse than that, at one point he even came to the point of saying, I want to get his words exact, of saying, I've gotten to the point where I think our only recourse to eliminate busing is a constitutional amendment. Just stunning words. Last week he said he has no apologies. And the media, has quoted him repeatedly saying, I've been involved with civil rights my whole career. But this is simply, I don't know how to word this politely, but this is simply not the truth. To the extent that he's been involved with civil rights, it hasn't been as an advocate, it's been as an opponent. And, like other careful centrists, Biden threads the needle on the subject of diversity by saying that he favors it in principle. He simply opposes the only way in which to make it possible. In a nation in which residential segregation and redlining on the part of banks and mortgage lending institutions remain absolutely unabated. Biden knows absolutely well, he has to know, that by opposing the use of transportation, he's making school integration virtually impossible. And I'd go on just briefly for a moment about his antipathy to the bus, because, it's remarkably selective antipathy. All over America, every single day, we see the good old yellow school bus stopping by the road to pick up kids in front of their homes and take them to school. And around 3 p.m, we see the bus again. Some of those buses, not enough, but some of them are transporting inner city children from virtual apartheid schooling systems into very well-funded, beautiful schools in affluent suburban communities. Now, I'm very close to this issue because way back in the 1960s, I first taught for a year in inner city Boston in a nightmarish school, a classic separate and unequal school. But a year or two after that, I was hired to teach in the first major interdistrict integration program in the country, which involves today about 30 suburbs close to Boston. And I had a very close friend in that struggle, one of the activists in Boston, African-American woman named Julia Walker, who's now 86 years old. And she sent her kids and her grandkids, and now she has a few great grandkids on the bus in that program to some really marvelous schools where 95% of the black kids who ride the bus, this is an amazing statistic, where more than 95% of the black and Latino kids who ride the bus have a 4-year high school graduation rate. As you compare to the classic segregated urban school where it's more like 60%. And the overwhelming majority of those kids go on to college, go on to 4-year colleges. I know a number of the first students in that program who went on to become teachers and are now the first black teachers in suburban public schools. So they can serve as role models for the next generation of kids. When I hear Joe Biden, stand up and say busing is a terrible mistake, it just breaks my heart. I mean, these aren't perfect programs, but the program in Boston, for example, has long had a waiting list of 15,000 children. And, the way I see it, as long as African-American and Latino parents who still believe in the dream of Dr. King are lining up to get their children into these programs, I don't want to see a Democratic nominee who's going to slam the gate in their face and lock them out.